they're cleaning the boat up, they're getting it ready for their event, and they're like, what is all this? Oh my God, there's blood in the bathroom!
Filmmakers Amy Schumacher and Stephen LaMorte are the two masterminds behind Screamboat, starring David Howard Thornton. The film is based on the Disney classic Steamboat Willie and shows us what would happen if the lovable mouse went on a murderous rampage in beautiful live-action carnage. Now, they sit down to talk horror with your host. What's up, horror fam? Steven, aka Bojangles here, and come closer, my friends. I have something scary to tell you. Anna and I sit down today with this diabolical duo to bring you all of the behind-the-scenes info from Screamboat. Forget the tea, we're going to spill the guts on this one. Sit back and enjoy, horror fam. All right, Amy and Steven, I'd like to thank the both of you for being willing to sit down and talk some horror with us today.
Thanks for having us. We love talking horror, so it only makes sense that we would be here to talk horror.
That's right, baby. That's how we do it. So you guys just had a new project that just came out, and it's called Screamboat. Would you like to tell the horror fam what the movie is about?
Yes. Screamboat is a horror comedy reimagining of the iconic Steamboat Willie cartoon. Steamboat Willie is the 1928 original iteration of Mickey Mouse, and he recently came into the public domain. So our movie is about a late night ferry ride in which a bunch of New York City commuters are traveling along on the Staten Island ferry and find themselves besieged by a miniature murderous mouse named Steamboat Willie that's played by David Howard Thornton. So it's got Disney references, it's got Terrifier level gores, it's produced by the same producers as Terrifier, and it's a really good time at the movies. I think it's not playing in theaters anymore in the US, although it is playing around the world, and it's now available on DVD and Blu-ray and streaming.
We just watched it this weekend. We had so much fun.
Oh, thank you.
Love that.
Yeah, it was a riot.
Yeah, the humor totally hit, right?
It really does. And the Disney references all hit. Like, I mean, there were some I had to point out to Steven because
deep cuts.
You know.
Some are deep cuts. Some are very on the nose for the uninitiated, and some are really insider baseball. And I think depending on your familiarity with Disney or the parks or the vibe, there's something for everyone.
Absolutely.
Yeah, heck yeah. So this is like the second parody type film. I'm not sure if that's the right term for this style of movie. That's, based off of like childhood icons and stuff. Your other one was being The Mean One, which was a parody of The Grinch. What has drawn you guys to this subgenre of horror?
I think the reimagining of characters that we actually love. I think Screamboat, despite some people who haven't seen the movie may think that we don't love Disney and we're trying to take like shots at Disney, and it's actually the opposite. We absolutely love Disney, Dr. Seuss, The Grinch. We love these characters, and it's really fun to reimagine them and re-experience them as adults. And like you were saying with the Disney references, we had so much fun remembering movies that were like, oh, I haven't thought about that movie in a long time. Oh, that movie reference. Oh, I haven't thought about that in adulthood. We should rewatch that. Those elements of it, I think, create just an extra layer of fun to horror.
Because, I mean, it's something that we really set out to do. We didn't want to just do a generic slasher and the killer is Steamboat Willie. We really wanted to do a Steamboat Willie horror movie. We wanted to make him a creature. We wanted to make him small. We wanted to make him silly. I feel like if it's not funny, like you're not doing it right, because he's a cartoon character. So we made our Murder Muppet, and all of our decisions sort of spun off of that idea of making a fun horror movie that's something people could have a laugh at, also be a little grossed out at, and could just be able to appreciate that. If you're a Steamboat Willie fan, even if you don't like horror, we made that movie. It is a Steamboat Willie movie. It's not just generic horror with Steamboat Willie themed killer. No, it's a Steamboat Willie movie through and through, first and foremost. He just happens to be murdering a lot.
That's great. Yeah, I think that really stood out to me because I wasn't sure, is this going to be, making fun of Disney or these Disney fans? And it really stands out throughout the film that the filmmakers are Disney fans. Like, it's just, some of the stuff was absolutely hilarious. I think what you did with the princesses is so over the top and hilarious. But like there's posters in the background with, Disney quotes in them. And there's like all kinds of little like throwaway lines that if you're really paying attention, you catch, you're like, oh, that's from Finding Nemo. Oh, that's from, Toy Story. Oh, it was really, that aspect of it comes through really clearly, that you really enjoy those movies and that's part of the fun. Yeah.
I mean, I don't think there's ever been like a Disney horror. I mean, I guess Winnie the Pooh, technically, he's a Disney character, but like a through and through Disney horror film. And not that that's what we set out to make, but we didn't want to shy away from the source material. We wanted to lean into the source material. There's certain rules that we have to apply, but that are different with Steamboat Willie in the public domain versus Mickey Mouse. And at first you find that kind of challenging and limiting because there's things you want to do, like have him talk and things like that seem like problems. But then once you sort of lean into it and realize the goal is to do the source material, it actually forces us to stay true to the original creation and to make sure that we're making a thing that honors the reason why we're making this movie in the first place. So I think it presented some interesting challenges and some fun opportunities. And when it was done, anytime we hear something like that, we're like, oh yes, we set out to we've achieved our goal, mission accomplished.
You did, absolutely.
Yeah. And speaking of having him talk and stuff like that, like, you didn't even really need to, because I'm going to tell you something. She has tortured me ever since watching that movie. Like, I'll just be hanging out on the couch, and then all of a sudden I'll just hear the, like, out of nowhere. I'm like, what the hell is that, dude?
It's everyone wants to do the voice, and it's funny because David loves doing the voice.
David does a very good impression of Mickey Mouse, and we're like, David, you can't do that.
You can't do that. We're not. He's not allowed to talk.
But the giggle he can do.
Like he does, the little giggle, the little noises, and it works. It really does.
Yeah, you can totally tell that is a David Howard Thornton type of role right there, man. Just
yes,
absolutely.
Yeah. And I mean, speaking of which, what is it like to work with someone like that? I mean, you had him as the Grinch in The Mean One. Now you've had him as Steamboat Willie. And I mean, what's it like to be a part of what is now a horror icon's repertoire? I mean, that would be like getting Robert Englund in the 80s to come be in your film. I mean, that has to be an honor, right?
Yeah, it's really cool. David's our friend. When we did The Mean One, Terrifier 1 had come out. 2 had not come out yet. So the huge, stardom and Terrifier catapulting to, the public's knowledge hadn't happened. So as we were releasing The Mean One, that movie, I think it was in theaters at the time, right? When the second one hit $12 million, which was such a big deal, and all of these things. Right after the second we knew we were going to make this movie, we approached David about it and asked him if he wanted to be a part of this movie and play Steamboat Willie. And he was signed on before we even had a fleshed out script. And so it was sort of designed around knowing David was going to play the character, because he had some history, like in childhood, playing these characters and playing in theater, and he wanted to play it. And then you get on set with him knowing that we had designed a character and designed a suit and a costume around wanting David to be able to express and emote through it. And then he gets there and it even blows your mind, the ability he has to emote through this insane amount of makeup. We wanted the face to be able to move, but the fact that he could make it move as much as he did, and had done his research to do the giggle, do all of the whistling, dance and move and react in a way that was in reference to the old cartoons, came from him putting in the work, putting in the effort, and being able to emote through layers and layers of ice packs and fur and blood, and all of it is really, really cool.
I mean, he's, you mentioned, we're part of the, his legacy as this new horror icon. And something that was really important to all of us was that he wasn't just doing Art the Clown in a Steamboat Willie suit. And so, we're talking through the character and stuff. It was so clear he had such love for the source material, and that he was going and doing research and revisiting the clips and making sure he wasn't just doing David's shtick in the Willie suit, but that he was trying to bring this character to life. And he put in so much time and energy into preparing for the role and helping us develop the character, coming in and rehearsing the way the creature would move, and sort of developing the character in both the writing and how we were going to shoot it, and how his performance would come across when the other actors had to interact with him, or when they couldn't interact directly with him because he's 30 feet away, to make him look small. But then there was also elements too, where once he got on set, he's such a talented performer that we planned to have him whistle in the movie, but we didn't plan to have him make these the sounds, all the little giggles and noise and sort of efforts, we call them, that came through in his performance. And he was rigged up with a mic for the whistling, and he started just making these sounds organically, and they made it so much funnier because you could tell what he's feeling as he's giggling and
grunting
and expressing himself through these through these little sounds. And it just sort of came organically, and he started doing it the very first day on set. He's like, "Can I make those sounds?" And we were like, "I mean, we can run it by legal, but let's do it. Let's see what happens." And it ended up just adding that whole other layer of something we just couldn't have plans for or prepared. And it really brought the character to life.
It really did. And I think he'd be happy to hear that he was, for me, absolutely unrecognizable. As, I would not, if I had no idea that was David, I would never put Art the Clown and Willie as the same person, which I think speaks volumes to his talent. Like it's, there's no crossover there. I don't think, like, at all, which is brilliant. Like, Willie is Willie. He's not, Art the Clown in a Willie suit at all.
No, he really wasn't. I mean, but it was giving me flashbacks. Like when he would do the dances or when he'd do the little shuffle at the wheel, I was like, oh my God, dude.
Steamboat Willie.
Yeah. He really did nail that.
He did. Yeah, absolutely.
It was so much fun. I mean, it's so rare to, everything has been done, right? Everything has been done and done and done again. So it's so rare that independent filmmakers can take this amazing, toy concept idea, whatever you want to call it, like take it out from behind the glass and like, oh, we get to play with this character too. I mean, otherwise we're going to make we have laser swords. Like we can't call them lightsabers. Like, oh, we have he's like this cartoon character, but we have to make our own thing. And once you've changed it over and over and over again, it's not that thing you love anymore. So for us to be able to do Steamboat Willie and get our shot to like, no, that's really him. He's got the hat. He's got the ears. He's furry. He's small. He's at the wheel. It really is a dream come true.
Oh man. And speaking of, some of the challenges that indie filmmakers face, with this taking place on a ferry boat, were there any challenges working within the confines of like such a limited setting?
It's exclusively challenges.
Yeah.
It's all every day is challenges.
There were so many pros, and there were a lot of pros to being there that came with a lot of cons. So, the ferry itself is a character in the movie. And as actors, being in the actual engine room and it's creaky and it's dusty, you can feel your surroundings, awesome. But being in a massive ferry that's basically a tin can, and if it's hot outside, it is scorching inside. And if it's cold outside, it is freezing inside. It is, and you got to get to the ferry dock to get down, to go to so there was a lot. I mean, it's huge. The ferry seats how many? 3,000?
3,000 or 4,000 people. Yeah, it's a massive boat.
And it's 4 floors, that stairs. So if you leave something down at the bottom, you got to be back in 10 minutes because you got to go all the way back down. There were things we didn't even predict were going to be issues that popped up because we were on a decommissioned ferry. So, but it was worth it. Totally worth it.
I mean, yeah, there's things like we're docked. So the boat is not moving for most of the movie. We did some shooting on the actual ferry while it was working, and there's New Yorkers standing behind us, and that's awesome. But there's also moments where like, oh, we're on a ferry, we're at the dock, so it won't move, right? Well, no, it's still very much in the water. And every time this big
Barges.
like, overseas barge with 100 or 1,000 cars goes by, the whole boat would start to move. So the crew was getting seasick, and the producers were like, what do you mean you're getting seasick? You're docked. And we're like, but we're still in the freaking water, and this thing still definitely moves. And especially when the boats would go by and we were in the engine room, because you couldn't see out of the window. So you would just be on the boat. Everything seemed static, but your stomach would lurch. And you're like,
And
what?
Just like sway.
You're like, what just
a
happened?
little.
If you've ever been on a cruise ship, like walking through a hallway, it's kind of that feeling.
Mhm.
And then the boat's like haunted for sure. So that definitely complicated things late night. But it was great.
Oh man, yeah.
Yeah, we heard sounds and noises, and there were definitely like there are days where at the end of the night we have to turn the power off. So like, but once you turn the power off, the switch to throw the power is all the way at the bottom of the boat, and the exit is all the way at the top. So there are nights where like if I'm the last one on the boat, it's like, okay, get my flashlight out. Here we go. This is gonna be like a quick speed run of Last of Us. Like flip the switch. Just trying to like, it's Half-Life, just trying to get through the corners and go up the stairs, and you hear it creaking and you're like, I hope to God that's just wood. Like we have to get off this freaking boat. It's but it's great. You can't fake that. Like there's nothing like being on a real boat.
Oh my God. So it induced that like childhood fear when you'd have to go down to the basement and you just hustle up the steps. Like,
yeah, that's right. Except if you slip, you're going to hit your head on a 40-year-old rusty metal staircase.
But as actors, it makes it even easier because you're down there and you're like, okay, act like you're scared. And we're down in the dark engine room. I'm like, it is scary down here. So
right. I'm like, guys, can you go? Guys, go around the corner. No, not that corner. Further back. And they're like, it's pretty creepy back here, man. Maybe this is far enough. Yeah.
So did you have any like reportings from the actors or crew of like some paranormal sightings or phenomena?
I feel like everyone sort of could feel the energy in some of the areas of the boat, and you can feel that the boat was in service for so long. So like there's like that energy in the walls of like thousands and thousands and thousands of people have commuted on this boat, that you can sort of feel history in it and history in the walls. But I think it was mostly like just the creaking and the like dark corners felt like a presence.
But I didn't feel like it was negative. Like there was no negative vibe. It just felt like this boat had history. A lot of people had passed through it. So it still had a vibe. It was like, this boat's New York. But I never felt concerned about what was there. But there's something there for sure.
We understand that. We've stayed in a 250-year-old hotel. Same energy. So many people coming and going over the centuries that it takes on like that.
It's in the
that
air.
energy. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not a negative thing. It's just so much life has been lived in that space, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So were there any, I imagine this is a loaded question right here. Were there any effects in the movie that were just way too hard to pull off?
I think anything that involved the oversized props had its own unique challenges because, we used a puppet to be like David's stunt double because David's not 2.5 feet tall. So anytime David had to interact with something when he's in the suit and we had to shrink him down, we needed to use an oversized prop to make everything match up. So if there's a knife at the end of the movie that Willie is wielding, David needs to be holding something that's like the size of a samurai sword because the scale has to, sort of match up. So there was a lot of that where like if appendages are getting chopped or, You need to have a giant dead body. Like, okay, well, mathematically speaking, that human would be 18 feet tall. We're an independent film. We took a lot of big swings and did a lot of big crazy stuff, but like we didn't have the resources to build an 18-foot tall corpse. So that meant we had to do things like forced perspective, which is a classic cinema trick, where you put something closer to the camera to make it seem like it's really big, or put David really far back to make it seem like he's really small. I think probably the craziest one was, there's a very famous piece of human anatomy that gets chopped off, and David has to interact with it. So that means we had to have a regular size version, and then we had to have
triple scale,
scale version. And we took meeting after meeting about this thing, and then they brought it to set and they gave it a name, and I think it lives somewhere now. Like, I mean, this it's just one of those things when you're writing, you don't want to be limited by your resources. Like, let's just make the most interesting, funny, silly thing possible. And they're like, Steve, we're going to need a big one, right? Like a real, like, oh, okay, well, you can just make that, right? And then all of a sudden, all the departments have to come chime in, and we're having these meetings about this oversized prosthetic penis. And you're like, this is not where I thought my career was going. And I'm thrilled to be having this conversation now, because this is fantastic. And yeah, challenges, but all like, wouldn't have it any other way.
Conversations you will cherish forever.
Right. And everyone's trying to be professional, and we're like, so when the member comes to set, how like we're all just like, Do
you remember the name the crew gave it? I'd love to know if you remember.
I thought it was Tom. Didn't she say she called it Tom? She might have been inhaling too much like paint. It's like painting the thing outside in the 90-degree heat. I feel like we'll ask Shannon. She knows. She said this is, because I feel like very confidently she was like, this is Tom. We're friends. Like, film sets. Yeah.
It's great. I love it.
I hope it comes through in the film. We had so much fun making this movie. And it's like one of the great benefits of making an independent film is we choose this crazy location, and we get like our friends together, and some really talented artists and professionals, and we all come together, and like, it's the Steamboat Willie horror movie. We're not, over here trying to cure world hunger, or like, the stakes are high. We want to make something great, but also like, if we're having fun, we think the audience is going to have fun too. Mm-hmm. So when we have these like zany ideas, be it in prep or in the writing stage or on set, then like, we're able to sort of pull on that thread. I don't have 10 suits standing behind me being like, no, this is too much, or no, we're wasting time. And, some of the biggest, craziest jokes on the film, like, we are just like, we shouldn't be allowed to do this. Like, there's no way, there's much more efficient ways. Just making him small, put all these grays in my hair that I didn't have before. Worth it, because like, the silliness of it that's what people are coming to see. And we hope that we had fun making it and people have fun watching it.
Oh, dude, it was definitely fun. Like,
yeah, and it really does come through that everyone who worked on this film enjoyed working on this film. Like, that, it comes through. Absolutely.
Yeah, and you're from New York, right? Am I right? Like,
yes, indeed. I'm from Staten Island for sure.
Dude, yeah, like, that's a place I've always wanted to check out. That's on my bucket list. I got to get that pizza ever since watching the Ninja Turtles. Just indulge.
Oh yeah, you have to.
But man, like, after watching this movie, I feel like I could be like Chris Farley in that SNL skit. Like, dude, do you remember when
right.
Well, it's like when she tells the kid, like, just look out the window, look at that beautiful view, and it's like the Statue of Liberty, and then the damn trash barge goes by. Like, oh man, that hit me, dude. I'm like,
that's so, look, we really wanted to do like a love letter to New York, a film that felt like really truly like both the fun and the sort of the sillier side of New York City. We didn't want to do a caricature like Guys and Dolls New York. We really wanted to do something that felt true of the chaotic maniacs that make up the greatest city in the world. And sort of bringing that to life. And Amy cast all the actors and making sure they sort of got the tone of what we were doing, that we're taking it seriously, but your performances are a little elevated. They're cartoonish, but not cartoony. I'm glad you picked that up.
Oh yeah, for sure. But I've got to ask you this though. Now, at the end of the movie,
spoilers for anyone that hasn't seen it yet.
Yeah, spoiler alert. At the end of the movie, Willie's love interest shows up, and I guess we'll call her Minnie Mouse, you know. Are you planning a sequel based off of that in the same vein of something like Bride of Chucky? We could just have them two running amok, dude.
Steven.
Me, you answered it. We're not at liberty to discuss what we're working on
We're
next.
not at liberty to discuss. However, I think if you were to see the movie and see that scene, maybe deduce what might come next.
Yes.
we can definitely say that there are more stories left to tell with Steamboat Willie and the Staten Island Ferry for sure.
Great. Awesome. Our first date was Bride of Chucky.
Oh.
So we have a soft spot for murderous duos, I guess.
Look, I think the Bonnie and Clyde thing is, and watching them play off of each other, I think it's, you got that's a good way to start your relationship for sure.
Right.
At least I do. Amy just doesn't really lean in on this. I like to say the family that slays together stays together.
Exactly.
So,
Right. And I feel like those are good date movies too, oddly, because I'm the horror fan. And she, you know, I was just weaning her into it a little bit. And I'm like, well, this one has a good mixture of humor and horror. So I'm like, man, Willie's got to get that action going on, you know.
That's the kind of movie we want to create that has the mix of it. There's a little something for everyone. It's funny and there's a real story. I saw someone post that it was like, prove me wrong. Screamboat is a romantic comedy. I'm like, I mean, it's not a romantic comedy.
I think the meme one has more romance than Screamboat, but there's plenty of romance in Screamboat.
Yeah.
And we like fun. We like fun horror flicks. I think there's a place for elevated horror. I think there's definitely like a horror film that, like, man, you go home and you're like, oh, I wonder if it's, I want to turn all the lights on in the house, or oh, I can't believe they did that, or that was so gory or unsettling. I mean, Longlegs is like, oh man, it really. I think there's a place for that for sure. But the kind of films we like to make fun theatrical movies meant to be watched with a group that like will scare you and make you laugh, and then you go out and you're like, that was a good time. We don't want anyone scarred from watching our films, although we do want to gross you out. And and hopefully, we're grossing people out in a fun way and not in a like, these people are sick. Why did they do that kind of way? We're a little sick, but we're fun to hang out with, so it's okay.
No, I mean, I think you nailed it though. So everything you wanted to accomplish with that movie, you absolutely did. It is really fun. The gross outs are the type that make you laugh. You know what I mean? We're like, oh God, that's so gross. But not the type of thing that makes you say like, okay, I'm done. I can't, because I'm kind of like that with certain types of horror films where I'm just like, no, that's enough for me. And he gets to watch the rest alone. And no, that's nothing like that is happening in Screamboat. It's all really great fun, even all the murders.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Look, I think there's something too when there's certain horror films that I love. Like we were just talking about, like Saw. Like, oh man, we want to go back and watch watch the Saw movies, or go back and watch the original Final Destination because the new one. And we're like, oh man, but you got to be in the mood for some of those things, right? You have to it's and you watch the original Halloween in the middle of a work day when the sun is up and you're like, is there something wrong with me? Like this is, but like Gremlins, you could watch at Christmas time and it doesn't matter whether the sun's up or the sun's down. That's a good time. So, I think there's a place for all of them, but we like fun horror.
Yeah. I imagine they're a lot more fun to make too, right? Like over the serious stuff. I assume that's fun as well, but I would imagine
making this one. Every time the either David would come out in full costume or they'd bring the puppet out, everyone turns into a little kid. Everyone wants to take a picture, pose with David, because it's just so silly.
And I think too, something that is relevant to the actor's process and the creative process. If you're shooting a torture scene and there's the villain's about to kill somebody and the victim is like begging for their life, even if the context is silly, like, oh, this is not real, or it's within the framework of whatever, this character's bad or good, or we're supposed to feel sad. Like when you're on set, this person's pleading for their life. They have to get themselves, in their headspace as an actor. And we're like, no, we're shooting it. And if you spend all day torturing somebody, and if we're doing our job right, it looks realistic. That's not a fun work environment. When it's done, it's like, wow, it's fun that we did it and we pulled it off, and maybe in context, but actually shooting those moments is like, sometimes, I mean, it can be a good time, but it's hard to sort of be like, over the weekend, we went to the Dodgers game and it was so fun. Okay, just a second. We're going to do the murder scene and you're scared for your life and we're ripping the flesh and so I do think there is something where we're making our fun horror movies where it's able to be a little lighter on set, because we're not, you don't have to go to, like, the emotions we're playing are real, but we're not going to this really dark place of like, oh, we spent all day killing some poor woman. The vibe is much lighter on a horror comedy set for sure.
Absolutely. And, speaking of which, like all those Disney references that you threw in there, do you know exactly how many of those you included so people could play like a game while they watch the movie? Like they're just playing spot the...
We want to make a game because I think that's a really fun idea. And we keep hearing from people. On my second watch, I caught a few more. Mm-hmm. But I don't know how many there are. Do you? Because there are some that are like hidden in the background, in the walls, like you were saying, the quotes, but some are in blood splatter, shapes and blood splatters. Some are on the actors. Some are, so like there are hidden willies throughout. There are very like nuanced references that aren't spoken but shown,
and some are really simple where it's just like the word magical or something. So it's hard to have like a specific, if I could do like a specific count. I know there's at least 33 because there had to be when I was writing the script, but there's a couple that are like debatable where people are like, oh, that's like Hercules' feet, and I'm like, no, it's just Statue of Liberty. So
that has also happened. People saw the movie and they're like, I got that reference. It's such a nuanced reference, that little moment where we saw Hercules and we're like,
that's not real.
We don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. So why 33?
Well, Club 33 is
a Disney. It's a insider Disney club, Club 33.
Yeah, it's this very exclusive. Yeah, Club 33 is a very exclusive club inside of Disneyland. It's got like a 10-year wait list. You have to pay thousands of dollars to be a member, and it's very secretive. Only like the most elite of Disney fans can go there and be members, and you can't like buy in. They have a finite number of people, and so someone has to like let their membership lapse or die in order for you to get in. It's crazy. Look it up. It's
It's intense.
It's extremely intense. Disney fandom is very intense, and we're loosely a part of it now. Although I think next time we go to Disneyland, we may have to have like a fake mustache and glasses or something. I don't know that we're welcome there anymore.
It wasn't us.
Yeah, right. It was those other guys. Yeah. Public domain, fair use. We're good. Don't send me to Disney jail.
They have that.
Yeah, they actually do.
That's a thing.
Not go to Disney jail.
They do.
So, like, did you guys who snuck in all those references? Was it like a solo project? Were there a team of Disney experts behind the scenes? Like, how did that work?
That's a good question. A bunch of them were in the script. They came from you and your co-writer, Matt. Matt Dunn. They put them in the script. I think once we were all in the spirit of it, I think people were finding more on set of adjusting a line so it was a reference and things like that. Or ones where it was a couple of Disney references that might be in a line. We were trying a few out, which one would work best.
Because there are some spots in the script where I was like trying to have like one reference per page. And then you reach a point where even if we shot them, it's like, okay, get on with the jokes. They like, you're in danger. You need to keep moving. So some things, did get cut.
Yeah.
And then there's some references where like we're doing the animation and we're like, oh, if I could put this in the background of the animation, that would make for a good joke. Or, oh, the actors are improving and they're like, oh, my character says this in the cartoon. Can I say that? I'm like, oh yeah, work that in. That's great. So it definitely, it was an organic process. And it's one of the things I love about the filmmaking creative process is whether you're in the writing or you're on set or even when you're in the editing room, if a good idea comes in, like we're a small enough team that it could get to me and it could make its way into the film. So it started off like this was something we were going to do just lightly. And then we added a bunch and then we added a whole bunch and then we scaled them back a little bit at the very end.
Dang.
It sounds like such a fun set.
Right?
Yeah.
And too, there's a little bits of challenges too when someone doesn't get the reference. I'm like, no, here's a clip from the movie that we're doing. Can you say it like this? Like, and normally I wouldn't tell an actor say it like this, but you have to say it like this. That's the reference. And they're like, oh, I'd never seen that before. So that was fun. And then the downside of that is there's so much lore. Once you've done this many things, you get to the editing room and I remember David leaned over. He's like, you really could have done blank. And I'm like, oh, how did we miss that?
Yeah.
Seems so obvious now. So, maybe we have to make a second one and slide those references back in.
Here you go. Right. Keep your notes. Okay.
That's right.
Yeah, no doubt, huh?
Yep.
So what do you hope, fans walk away with after watching Screamboat?
I hope that they had a good time. One of my favorite things that we've been seeing, and I hope other people get to see, is when they're watching it in groups of people laughing with each other, chit-chatting really quickly when they heard a reference or noticed a reference, and having fun as like a group community type experience. I do think you can watch it at home and have a laugh and it's great and maybe think about some of your old favorite movies. But the community aspect of it, or people like bonding together, even online, people are like, I loved this line. And then other people chime in with where they think it's from or who they think each character might be. I think that element is my favorite. Bringing people together.
That's right. Through horror. Horror and humor.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
We kind of live by that motto, bringing people together through horror. So,
well, and it's cool too because horror has been around. Since even the earliest Grimm's fairy tales, right? Those are horror. There's witches, and they're they're trying to teach a lesson to keep kids from running away. Fine. But there's something I've loved about being a part of the horror community. And the more I didn't consider myself a horror fan until I realized the kind of horror I like, the kind of movies that I love. Actually, the horror moments are my favorites, right? Things like Jurassic Park, things like Terminator, things like The Mummy. Like, well, look, there's horror in it. It's not a slasher per se. But once I started pulling on that thread and you start doing your research and going to conventions and meeting people like, oh, do you like a horror that is socially conscious and reflective of the time it was made? Then you should watch this. This zombie movie isn't just about kills; it's about consumerism. And so I think there's something of like, do you like werewolves but not lichens? Do you like vampires but not sexy vampires? Like, I think there's just do you like a blood but so much blood it's funny? Medical body horror. There's so many flavors of horror, and horror is a place for everybody. And I think that you can be so creative when you can push the rules to, like, what rules? Like, horror has rules, but then like, does it? You push them to the edge and then you push them too far, and then you flip the script and make fun of the fact that there are rules. Then people are like, I want to go back to the rules. And you have something like Art the Clown is like a regular slasher again. And so it's cool. I love being a part of horror, and the people we've met in the horror community has just been, it's just so great. Horror has the best fans.
Yeah, totally agree with that.
yeah, absolutely.
So in retrospect, now that the film's out there, is there anything that you wish you could have changed about the movie now?
I have one moment. There's a line that my character says that has been driving me nuts, because when we were sitting in the premiere, I had the realization of what the line could have been that would have been really funny. And I leaned over and I'm like, I should have said this. Can we still change it? It's not in theaters yet. We're just at the premiere. it hasn't gone to DVD yet. I could do like a voiceover recording. We can make it a voiceover line. We'll cut to her and change it, and it's still driving me nuts. And I can't tell you what it is, but it's driving me nuts.
Yeah, it's a spoiler for like the very, very, very end of the movie. And I was like, Amy, it's a great idea, but I hate to break it to you. We're at the premiere, so I think the film is finished.
It's a fun thing too. It's not like, oh, I wish we would have decided to include this character. I wish the gore was better or whatever, anything like that. It's just like this one tiny line that no one else is going to notice. And every time I'm like, I should have said it.
Oh,
Well, there's I don't know if I want to call it a running gag, but maybe that your character has that I just kept getting a kick out of every time you told somebody their blood sugar was low.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's actually my ongoing joke too, that I like rib him every time, because so we did this research in developing the EMT character of what can an EMT prescribe, or what can an EMT do when A, they're not on the clock, and B, they haven't like asked any of the regular medical questions to somebody. So we spoke to an EMT, we spoke to a police officer, we spoke to a paramedic of how do we make it real? What would I have in my bag? And he was like, you can have like hydration. You can't prescribe anything. So for example, on a public boat, the person sitting next to them would say, you can have some Advil, but if the EMT gives them Advil and they're allergic to something, you lose your license. So like, I can't prescribe anything.
Right.
And so I am not helpful to anyone at all. I'm like, you need some Gatorade.
It's like, you seem traumatized. I'm going to
get you your blood
cold.
sugar.
Maybe we'll warm
I'll get
you
you
up.
a blanket. I think your blood sugar is low. I said it. There's one other time I said it, and that scene got trimmed down, so I don't say it again. But even there was one other time where I'm like, okay, it's getting kind of ridiculous that everyone, I'm like, you just saw some trauma. It's your blood sugar.
It must be your blood sugar. You saw a bunch of murder. Can we get you some electrolytes?
Definitely your blood sugar. Well, it was one of my favorite takeaways from the film, so maybe it wouldn't have been too much.
It's the weirdly accurate, actually. It's one of those like jokes where you're like, oh, that's actually all she's allowed to prescribe. And even the writer's like, I feel like at the end she should have offered someone electrolytes. And I'm like, again, movie is finished. We cannot, no more changes. It's done. We're gonna have to let that one go. Save it for the sequel.
Yeah, I think that's why it like resonated with me, because it is insanely accurate, and I find myself saying it to him all the time. Oh, you need to eat, or we need to eat. Or we'll be out in public and I'll see like a child having like a meltdown, and I'm like, oh, poor thing needs to eat.
Blood sugar.
Blood sugar.
It's crashing. And only prescribable medicine.
Too fun.
So you may have answered this already with Tom the member.
Oh.
The phallus. But what is the funniest thing that happened while making Screamboat?
I think that scene was fun. That was a really closed set, so not everybody was there. I think there's the scene with the captain has so much blood in it. And required so many people to puppeteer the prosthetic head and do the blood spray and everything like that, that it was most of our team was there, and so much blood got sprayed that everyone's sort of covered in blood, even though everyone was prepared, put bags over their cameras and their equipment and over their clothes. And then blood started spraying it's dripping from the ceiling. It's dripping off the windows. I think that was one of them.
It was definitely one of the more preposterous days on set. I mean, because how many people does it take to make one human die at the hands of one mouse? And the answer is like 10. It really was like 10 people. Like if you're looking at without giving too much away, if you're looking at the captain's hands, each hand is a different actor. So we have like one hand is one person wearing the actor's watch. The other hand is the other person. You have someone operating the neck, you have someone operating the mouse, you have someone like moving him back and forth, then you have the person operating the blood and making sure that it sprays the right amount. I mean, it really was like Bert from Mary Poppins, like playing all the instruments at once. And when it all comes together, you're like, oh, that guy's alone in the room. And it's not. We are all there. Everyone is bloody. Everyone is sticky. And some of that blood is still there to this day, because I know there parts of the boat where like the blood seeped in under the floorboards, or like some of it's still on the ceiling, or like we had to bring in a special team to clean it because there was so much, and we may or may not have overdone it. I think it looks great in the movie, but if you go into the captain's deck, like they had cleaned all the blood and it looked totally fine. And then you go to pick something up, like a book or a phone or a monitor or something.
Anything.
You turn it slightly, or you'd lift it up and it would come off, and it turns out there's still blood in the bottom. You're like, oh, put that right. I was going to set it right back, and that's going to be the Tommy Hilfiger's problem, and that's what the boat went to go do next.
Yeah.
I'd like to believe that the Tommy Hilfiger fashion show, where they're cleaning the boat up, they're getting it ready for their event, and they're like, "What is all this? Oh my God, there's blood in the bathroom!"
After us, Tommy Hilfiger rented the boat for Fashion Week, New York Fashion Week. They moved the boat and they turned it into a runway and stuff. And there is no world in which they didn't find blood splatter in various places.
In just random.
Perfect.
Yeah. And I like to believe that. I mean, even on my last day on the boat, everything's out. The cameras, the lighting, we had cleaned it. There's like nothing on the boat. I'm like going to turn the keys back, and I go up to the captain's deck, and I put my hands on the wheel, and I look out over the skyline one last time. I'm like, man, this is the last time I'm ever going to be the captain of the Staten Island ferry. This is like a beautiful moment. This is amazing. And then I take my hand off the wheel, and it's sticky. There's blood on there. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess maybe the boat has left its mark on us, but we've left our mark on the boat too. That said, I don't have any paper towels or running water, so I guess I'm just going to leave that. And
that lives here now.
And some say that blood's still on that boat to this day.
I'm sure it is.
Was there anything legitimately scary that happened while filming?
I had a scary, so I jump scare very easily. So like at Halloween Horror Nights or things like that, the scare actors love to see me coming because I'm the one who's gonna fall on the ground and I can't help it. Like I jump scare very easily. And we had a scene on the top of the ferry where my character is having a battle going toe to toe with Steamboat Willie. And because in any scenario or any scene where we either touch Steamboat Willie or come very close, it has to be the puppet so that the scale or the size is right. So our puppeteer, Christian Beckman, was puppeteering it, and he was laying on like one of those carpet dolly, rolly things with the puppet, and the puppet was coming at me, and I'm like sword fighting, and it was like 3 a.m. and it was dark, and we were on the roof of the Staten Island ferry, and I heard Steve yell cut, and I think everyone else in the room heard Steve yell cut, except for the guy that was pushing Christian with the puppet. So the puppet just kept coming at me, and it was horrifying. And of course, then I start screaming, but before I can stop myself, because it like came from my soul of like, it's coming, it's getting me. And then everyone's laughing, and Steve's like, we got to focus. I'm like, this was terrifying. That was my scary moment for sure.
It was very funny. I mean, he's also armed. He's running at you with a knife in his hand. I mean, and the puppeteer can't super duper see what's going on. So once the puppet got too close,
and he's just like coming, and he said cut, and I'm like, okay, now we've broken character. I'm ready to get up, and the puppet is still like attacking my face. Was very scary. Also because they modeled the prosthetic that he wore from the head cast, the life cast David did for Terrifier. So it's a perfect like model of David's face. And then they took that when they shrunk it down to make the puppet face. So the puppet and the David's prosthetic are almost identical. At least with that puppet, it was almost identical. So it really is like David's eyes coming at me with the snarl, and it like in the puppet form is terrifying.
It was pretty funny.
Oh, that would have gotten me. So that, yes. Oh, God, that would have been me.
Yeah.
I'd have needed a minute afterwards. Like, I'm going to go sit over here by myself.
Exactly.
Yeah, drink some Gatorade.
Yeah.
My electrolytes. Yeah, my blood sugar really was low.
I need a snack and a blanket. I'll be back in a minute.
So, who are your influences as filmmakers?
As filmmakers, my biggest references probably for this film were definitely like classic puppet movies, right? Of course, Chucky, the first two I think are just fantastic. Those are two of my favorites. Movies like Gremlins, where you have creatures in there, kind of the star of the show. But also, I mean, one of my biggest influences, honestly, was Walt Disney, not the company, but the guy, because there's something about the way that he managed his team and about the way that like he always believed like, nothing is impossible if all our dreams are possible if we have the courage to pursue them. Like it's like a quote that's been, was in my yearbook back in the day. So I mean, I've always kind of loved this idea of like no one's ever made a feature-length cartoon before. Oh, we want to shrink people down and make a Leprechaun movie. Oh, all of these different innovations that they did when they want to do a ride that features real ghosts and what is it going to look like? So there's just like kind of trying to tap into that sort of Walt Disney spirit of creative problem solving and creativity, and just sort of this idea of like showing people something they haven't seen before and giving them memories they can take home with them. Definitely something I kind of try to tap into and try to think like. And what helped is that when you're doing an independent film, we can't just use visual effects and like, oh, put them underwater or do this or do that. We have sort of limitations with the way that we have to make the movie. So tapping into that very practical, creative problem solving methodology behind making the movie was actually a lot of fun. And it forced us to do things that would look cool on screen because we don't have the resources to do something that doesn't quite work. Yeah, I'd like to believe that even though he might not approve of what we've done with his most beloved character, I do think Walt Disney would be proud of the way and the spirit in which we made this film, because there's a lot of creative problem solving in this movie.
Yeah, I actually just heard a podcast with Robert Rodriguez talking about that. Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering if you guys have like an example of this. He said that, when you go to make a film, you have a plan. Like you plan it as best as you possibly can. He's like, but it's always going to go to shit. The plan always goes to shit. But what comes out of that is better than anything you ever had planned. Like just the creative spirit takes over. You persevere and just something turns out just magical. Like, did y'all have any moments like that where all odds were against you and you just persevered and kicked its ass?
This entire movie.
All of it.
I think that's absolutely true. We experienced that on the Mean One, I think, a lot too. Mm-hmm. We had, budget limitations and time limitations that forced you to have to get creative we envisioned, or for Screamboat, we envisioned it to go this certain way, but we are out of time. It's just not working. We can't get water pressure to be right. Whatever it is, like all these different elements where you have to get creative and think through the problem. There is no option. So we're all standing here ready to do it. We have to think through a different way to do this or a different way to make it work. And I also think sometimes the parameters, if in our upcoming movie, we don't have the ability to have the horses, that's fine. Let's come up with a funnier way to do that or a different version of that. So you envision what you think your biggest budget, most creative, most expensive version is going to be. And when you have every single option on the table, how do you pick? When you're limited by this is the only way we can make this work. Or like he was saying, we don't have the budget to do this as, all in post-production. We have to figure out how to make it right now. And it forced us to have to get more creative. Well, this person's going to go paint a thing and make it work right now. Somebody has a red shirt. Let's sew it up and fix the thing. Whatever it is, like, I think that's 100% true that it forces you to have to be more creative in the moment. You have nothing to rely on.
And then once it's done and the dust is settled, people are watching it like, wow, that works. And you're like, I don't know that that's worse than what we were planning to do. Right. I think it's better than what we were planning to do, because sometimes the movie gods tell you you're going the wrong way and force you to go a different way. And if you have, if they're on your side that day, you end up with something that works maybe a little better.
Or things in the moment where you're, for us, we ended up starting our first day of production, I think a full week after we had originally set the date.
Mhm.
Because some things were falling through and they just weren't working out. And it felt so stressful in the moment. And then once we got to our first day of shooting, we were like, we would not have been ready. This would not have been right had we started shooting last Monday. But because we had those extra days that were forced upon us, we utilized them. And then by the time we got there, we're like, well, that was a blessing, because we would not have been ready for any of this, or not prepared, or whatever. So if you're open, but that's what it is. You build a plan, and then if you can't improvise or be flexible, which sometimes is really hard to do when you're like, we've been planning this for a year. What do you mean? If you can't do that, then it's just not going to work out. But when we can all be flexible as a team and think through something instead of panic, it always turns out better, I think.
Yeah. And then people, sometimes misinterpret where things didn't go as how you planned them, and then they're like, oh, look, it's Hercules' foot. That's awesome.
Like
Yes. Good catch.
exactly.
That
Of course
person.
it is.
So I gotta ask, what is your favorite movies?
Oof. Oh man.
One of my favorite movies is Zombieland.
Ooh, okay. Fun.
I love Zombieland. My secret, which used to be more faux pas to say that was my favorite movie, is now not so much anymore, is Point Break, which now I think is more popular than it used to be. But it's like my guilty pleasure. I love that movie.
Yeah, for me, I think like comfort favorite films. I love Terminator, the first one. I know I think Terminator 2 is definitely like better, quote unquote, and it's a classic. But Terminator 1 is the acting, the world building. I mean, I freaking love Terminator 1, the classic Raiders of the Lost Ark. Like I could teach a class in the first 10 minutes of Raiders of the Lost Ark. I love that movie. And I'll always have a soft spot for the thing that got me into horror is the Brendan Fraser Mummy. I loved just the way that they mixed, like it was just scary enough, but it was fun. It had adventure. It's funny, really big, broad characters, not afraid to lean into somewhat campy style, but also had stakes and emotion. And, they sail off into the sunset at the end and they made like 4 more. It was great.
That's great.
Nothing
I feel like we would really enjoy movie night with you guys.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. She actually wanted to watch The Mummy last night and we couldn't find it.
yeah.
Oh yeah. The first one, like even if you have, like if you haven't seen it in a minute, I don't want to say it still holds up because it's not that old, but you go back to it and you're like, man, this thing just works. Like you're watching it, it just like the lines, the jokes, the performance, the special effects. I mean, you're like, oh yeah, this all works. Some of it's a much dated, but because it's an adventure film, you're like, it all, there's no weirdness about it. It just like still lands in every way, in my opinion.
It's so fun. And I think Steven had never seen Point Break, so I showed that to him. I made him watch that.
Dude.
And he had never
So
seen
good.
Raiders of the Lost Ark, and I made him watch that.
Great.
Both great.
See, yes, you would be very at home at a movie night at our house.
Yeah. I'm definitely the like action adventure
Mm-hmm.
film buff. He's the horror buff, and I've had to kind of draw him into my world.
Yeah, a little bit, man.
Yeah.
Point Break is so good. I mean, so is
good.
Raiders, but
Yeah.
damn, Point Break.
We went down
So
a
good.
Patrick Swayze rabbit hole, and we're
Yeah.
like, let's watch Roadhouse. And
Roadhouse
there's like
is great.
something so unapologetically awesome about Roadhouse, and you're like, oh, I remember this movie being dumber. I really like this again.
He's doing Tai Chi at the
for
river.
no
and you're like,
reason.
yeah.
in
That's
gray
great.
sweatpants. I'm like, I feel like I need to be eating peanuts. Like, I don't know why. I feel like I need to be eating peanuts and throwing the shells on the ground. Like, this movie is great. I don't know.
So good.
Right. And the villain is so much darker than you roll for myself than I remembered. Going back and rewatching that movie as an adult, I was like, some of the things that
He's
Right.
intense, dude.
the villain says, I'm like,
Horrible things.
really? Like, did he just say that? That's
Well,
so
and even
dark.
too, I think some of it too, you're like, maybe 10 years ago, you're like, well, this is cartoony. No town would elect a person that would do this many, outlandish things. And now our world has changed, and you're like, government, people that are in power, anything's possible. There's nothing unbelievable about
Yeah.
mustache twirling like just really out there things. Yeah, Roadhouse is still good. We might have to do a Roadhouse night soon. Love that.
Dude, me too. Yeah, it's different because TBS used to show it on repeat over and over.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you watch it on video and you get the uncensored stuff and you're like, holy shit, he just said that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But it's badass if you're a dude. You're like, oh shit, don't lose to this guy, dog. Like this is that's a quick way to learn. Jimmy don't play around. Like
It's so good. I mean, there's something I think. I don't want to say some movies nowadays people are overthinking them, but there is something about like the classicness of a movie that's unafraid of just being like exciting or adventurous or masculine or emotional. You know, I feel like there's a lot of like, especially some Marvel movies where there's like heavy stakes, but then they have to end the scene with a joke because they'd hate to have you feel something for too long. And then you watch a movie like Lord of the Rings and they're like, we're brothers, and they just mean it. There's nothing goofy about it. Like they just mean it. And I think some of the old films, you're like,
Speaking
that
my
line
language.
is ridiculous. But those emotions, they're experiencing real emotions, and they're not afraid to say it. And yeah, I don't know. I love that's not even like classics, but I love sort of that classic feel of an organic movie that was made by a few people that worked together. And I'm sure the studio had notes, but you know, they went off and made the film and came back, and it's like Roadhouse was always going to be that. You know, there's no real way around it. That's the movie they made, and it's awesome.
Yeah, man, it really is. You know, it's like one of those movies you could go to like a monster truck rally and then just come home and watch Roadhouse and fall asleep, baby.
Monster truck rally.
Sounds like a perfect day. And Roadhouse.
I mean, it does sound like fun.
It sounds like a good time, right? It's coming this summer.
So let me ask you this, man. So you guys are like a husband and wife team, right?
Yep.
So does that make the filmmaking process easier for you guys because you know each other so well and can work off of each other?
I think so. I think it definitely makes it more fun, but I do think it makes it easier because even as we're in pre-production, we're developing the script, we're talking about it sort of incessantly, but like as we are walking the neighborhood, we're talking about ideas, we're talking about how something might work, and then we get on set and we do different things on set so we can part ways and come back and like revisit how each person's day went. But I think then we have like a language of how we're communicating with the rest of the team, or our vision is really united because we are on the same page about it, so then we can express it to everybody else on the team. So I do think it makes it easier and just definitely more fun.
It's also very, very difficult to make movies. I mean, the hours are long and it's tiring, and it goes on and on and on. I mean, 4 weeks of, you talk about it for a year, and then when you're shooting, it's like an 18. I mean, there was one day I definitely worked an 18-hour day because we had to do a 6-hour pickup shoot, and then the crew showed up, and then it was time to start the day, and then we shot for 12 and a half hours. So it can be very difficult. Yeah, it's a lot. Best job in the world, but it can be physically taxing. And it's something that is really, it's hard to relate when someone else isn't in the film industry of like, oh, well, you know, today we had this big problem with the coolers. And most people would be like, what are you talking about? So it's helpful to be able to relate and connect on that front. But there's also a side where like when we're working together on set, it becomes much easier because we're able to go, you know, even if we split up for the day, we both come back and we're like, man, that cooler thing was crazy, right? She's like, oh yeah, the coolers. And then we can talk trash about the same people and drive home and like, so we're doing takeout tonight, right? Yes. And we can just, you know, sort of support each other. And when she needs a little more because she's having a big emotional scene, or I need a little more because I just did a crazy day, like we're able to support each other a lot more effectively because this job can be really challenging. And, you know, they say going to, one of our favorite stunt coordinators to work with says making when you go to going into battle, you go with friends, and making a movie is like going to war. So, you know, why not go to war with my best friend? That's my wife.
Oh,
Love it.
all right.
Yeah. Speaking of the Lord of the Rings.
All right.
Yeah.
So is there one of you that's more like Like, do you share like the same personality or the same approach when it comes to making a film, or is one of you more like primeval and the other's more textbook, or?
Oh, that's a good question. I think we relate on we met shooting on a set, but I think we relate in terms of being able to just jump in and I'll do it myself, or I'll wear multiple hats if it means we can get it done, or I would rather, help the art department do a thing if it means we can accomplish the vision or things like that. So I think the independent spirit we share a lot, and the ability to just, guerrilla style, get the shot, we'll make it happen. We'll each pick up the slack, however needs to happen to get it done. So I think we do that very similarly. I don't know. I mean, we do different things on set. So
I also think that we take turns being really rigid and being more experimental. So there are times when in prep, I think, I really need it to be like this, and I'm making my shot list, and we have to shoot these. If we don't shoot these shots like this, it needs to be like this and that and this and this and that. And then there are other times when I just need room to explore and create. And it can be very frustrating when Amy's producing of like, look, I need to go to the studio, and if we need to make 5 paintings so that we get to the 6th awesome one, like, I'm sorry, I can't tell you how many brushstrokes it's going to take. We just need to create the environment to do that. And she's always very supportive, but we go back and forth between when things need to be like by the book and on paper and on schedule. And sometimes where we're like, hey, we need more time. I know this was the plan, but we have to deviate, or we have to plan for, I don't have the answer. We need to allocate time and resources to figure it out. And because there's so much trust between us, I think we know when to let go and when to push, and when like, no, we have to, I have to give her space to do this, or she needs to give me my space to do that. And we can sort of balance it.
We're both producers, and typically the producer would be the one to say, we can't afford to do that. You don't get the extra day. No, you can't make him small. It's going to cost so much more money to do it. So we're both producers. So if one of us in the situation doesn't stop and say, hang on, let's think about this as producers, not the artist trying to make the movie, then I think things would go off the rails. We can change the one line.
We're not changing the line.
ADR
it's
the
over.
voiceover.
We're not changing the line. Now, we want to put that other joke back in, and we negotiate.
So if somebody's like, that idea is great, awesome, but we can't afford to do that, or we don't have the extra time, we can't build that into the schedule, it's too late. Then it's nice that one of us is usually like, hang on. I don't think we can do that. We have to stop. Because if both of us were like, yay, let's do it, bring in the whatever, we'd still be there. We'd still be making this movie.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's also nice though that there's that balance where it doesn't always have to be just one of you that is like towing the hard line, that you guys take turns. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's definitely, we both get to be mom and dad depending on the day. Like it really does, because she wants me to have my shots. I want her to, be able to have as many takes as possible. And, when I'm like, hey, I think we need to cut this line out because, for whatever reason. And she's like, no, those are my lines. I'm like, I know I want you to have all the lines, but I think we have to cut it out. Or she's like, Stephen, we have to move on to the next scene. I'm like, trust me, we didn't get it. We have to, it really is a balancing act. And it is helpful when the producer's in my corner, right? And when she's the actor, it's helpful when the director's in her corner. So it's the nepotism goes both ways at our house.
All right, so here's a fun one I have for you guys. Would you rather be trapped on a boat with your Steamboat Willie, okay, and you got to try to survive, or you're going to be trapped on a boat with Jason Voorhees, a la Jason Takes Manhattan?
Oh, you just watched that.
Yes. I know my answer, hands down, but you can go first.
So I feel like, having battled and survived.
Spoilers.
Oh, spoiler. Steamboat Willie. It was a real challenge because he's fast and you never know where he's going to be, and he pops up everywhere. Whereas like Jason sort of lumbers around, and I fancy myself a pretty fast runner. So I'm going to go with that one.
Perfect.
I have to be. I'm gonna have to go with Amy. I'm much more scared of Steamboat Willie than I am Jason Voorhees in Jason Takes Manhattan, or as I like to call it, Jason takes that boat and then briefly stops into the most Canadian parts of Manhattan in the last.
Right.
Yeah, I think if I had to throw down, I'd probably want to be on the boat with Jason. If I got to lock myself outside and watch through the glass, it'd be Steamboat Willie because he's fun.
He's fun, but he's
mean.
He's mean, and he is stronger than you think he's going to be.
Right.
And he's everywhere.
Almost impossibly strong.
Right, and he's little. He can hide anywhere.
There's always dark places. Like realistically, if you're standing on the roof of the Staten Island Ferry and you look around, you're gonna see Jason coming. Whereas you can't say the same for Steamboat Willie.
Yeah.
Jason
and
comes and
music would always be playing.
You'd hear and then he pokes you with a harpoon or whatever he stabs you with in the beginning. Like, yeah, he's great. Pull his mask off, see his weird face. I think I could. I know it's like that argument, like, you know, who would win a 100 men or a gorilla, or like, you know, do you think you could take a bear, like that kind of thing. Like, I really feel like it doesn't say a lot about me, but I'm like, I think I could take Jason in that context. In that context, that one guy fights him at, you know, he's boxing him on that rooftop. So
that's true.
Yeah. Everything you know about me, I think I could take Jason Voorhees in that movie specifically. There you go.
That's an important point in that movie.
That is true.
He's a lot tougher than some of the other ones.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure, man. All right, man. Amy and Steven of Screamboat, I thank you all once again for sitting down and talking some horror with us. You have been a freaking blast, dude.
You guys have been really lovely guests. Yeah.
Thanks for having us. We're the same. We are the same person. We share one brain. We're so glad you folks enjoyed the movie. You took the time to watch it. Anyone that hasn't seen it, we spoiled almost nothing. So you can, you know, make sure you can get it on DVD and Blu-ray, or you can rent it or buy it on Amazon, or the on demand on like your cable box or satellite. You know, check it out. It's a fun time.
There you go.
It's great. And we can't wait to talk to you about your next project.
Yes.
That's right. We'll be ready to chat when you are.
Right.
Heck yeah. All right, man. Thank you all so much.
Yeah. Thank you again.
Thank you.
We'll talk to you soon.
Have a great night. Okay.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys. All right. And there you have it, horror fam. That is our interview with Amy Schumacher and Steven LaMorte from Screamboat. I hope you all enjoyed it, and we got in all of those juicy questions that was on all of your minds. They were fun. They were
really fun. I want to hang out with them. They're our new friends.
Right. It's like interviewing us or something.
Kind of. It's kind of what it felt like.
Right?
Yeah.
All right, horror fam. Enjoy it. Listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Don't be afraid to leave a comment, leave a review. Certainly follow. If you're not following, what are you doing? Right?
That's right.
Or if you like to see my pretty face and my lovely co-host face and maybe even a little bit of Sammy the cat, you can watch us on YouTube, of course.
And check out our link tree. You can sign up for the weekly Talk Horror newsletter and be kept up to date on all of the best horror news.
That's right. You'll get some behind the scenes Talk Horror action. You'll get some shower thoughts from our one and only JK. You'll get interesting tidbits from me. You never know what I'm going to give you, but I'll tell you what, you ain't going to get it anywhere else except for that Talk Horror newsletter, baby. So make sure you click that link tree and you're signed up for that. You'll also get your, you know, friendly, hey, watch our podcast reminder in there as well.
That's right.
But all right, my friends, I'm going to quit selling you and just assume that you bought it. And until next time, my friends, look horror.
Listen horror.
Talk horror. Mwah! We love every single one of you. Have a great day.